Hello and welcome to Ellen Ruth Soap. I'm Ellen and today we're going to make REBATCH soap. If you watch any of my earlier videos, you know that I bevel the edges of all my soaps and I get this wonderful bucket full of soap shavings. Well, I do a couple of things with these. One is if I have a bunch of soaps that have similar colors, I will save off those shavings and use them for confetti soap. And that's really pretty. It's like a little party in a soap. Those are cute. But most of the time I do different colors and different fragrances, and I have this huge bucket, and so I rebatch it, which means I'm going to put these in the crock pot and I'll show you step by step how I do it with a little sodium lactate, some liquid. In this case I'm going to use coconut milk. And I melt them down, put them in a mold, and make new soap with them just for my family. And it's really amazing. You'd think with all the different fragrances and stuff that it would be a conflict of interest with those fragrances, and it doesn't. I think the heat of the crock pot sort of and a lot of these shavings are old, and so the fragrances have faded, and between the heat and the fade, it's really, I have not run into a rebatch that's offensive smelling. Usually it just smells very bland and soapy, and then I will actually add a fragrance to my rebatch sometimes. Anyway, I'll bring you along step by step as we recycle. I hate to waste all the good ingredients in my soap. I don't like to waste anything. So we're going to rebatch this, make a big loaf of soap for my family, and I'll show you step by step how we're going to do that. All right, it's rebatch time, and I don't need gloves on because all these shavings are fully saponified. I'm not working with raw sodium hydroxide here. Some of these soap shavings go back several months, up to about a week or so old, but so they're all fully saponified, and I've weighed them out here, and I have about 2.5 pounds of soap shavings and ends and just little strange bits and pieces here, and I'm just going to get it all fitted into my crock pot. And I have my crock pot on low, so I'm not in a rush. I've got other things to do in the soap studio, so I'm going to keep it on low here. And what I'm going to do, let me get this all in here and I'll show you the next step. For my liquid, because some of these are old and not wet and pliable, some are newer than others, I'm going to just add about 3 ounces of water in here just to get it started. Okay, so I've got my 3 ounces of water just to get us started here. And I may need to add a little bit more later, but we will wait and hold off on that and see. To this, I'm also going to add sodium lactate. And I get this, oh, my crock pot's already getting warm. I get this, this one is from Brambleberry. I also have gotten it from Wholesale Supplies Plus and a few other places, and it's just a great thing. It causes your cold process soap to harden and unmold a little easier. Well, in REBATCH soap, it's supposed to help make it more fluid when it's in the melted state. So I added in there because I've read that, and why mess with a good thing? So this is a 1 teaspoon measurement, and you can add 1/2 to 1 teaspoon per pound of soap shavings. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 generous teaspoons here because this is about 2.5 pounds, so just a little extra. And that's my sodium lactate. That's all I'm going to add of that. I'm going to also be adding coconut milk powder, just to add some richness. Now this is a combination of so many different soaps. I've got goat milk soaps in here, I've got aloe vera soap, coconut milk soap. So I don't retail this. This is just for family use and friends. And anyway, I like to add coconut milk powder because I think it's fantastic and I love it. It makes really nice, like fluffy lather. So this is a 2 tablespoon measure, which I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, and I guess I'll do one more. Let's do 4 tablespoons. Let's make this really milky. That's great. All right, so there's that. I am going to go ahead and pop my lid back on this now and just let it start to sit and melt a little bit. I'll let it go about maybe 15-20 minutes, and then we'll come back and just sort of mash it and start stirring it. And it just takes a while to melt everything together. And I will go and get my old I have a vintage KitchenAid handheld beater, and I'll be doing that in here too to sort of whip it and get everything incorporated well, but that'll come later on. Right now we're just starting to get the melting going, so let's just let this go and we'll come back when it's ready to stir. All right, I've had the crock pot on low here for about 15 minutes or so, and I'm just going to give this a little kind of mash around, stir here. It's not really fluid or stirrable, but just to sort of get things flipped about so that it heats evenly, because you know crock pots heat around the edge first, so that's all I'm doing. Nothing a lot going on right now. So I know I talked about this in the intro, and it's just really amazing to me how all these different soaps and all these different fragrances don't have a conflict. And I have a pretty sensitive nose when it comes to fragrances. And it just amazes me. And I think some of it is because of its old soap that's faded, and some of it's the heat that just dissipates off the fragrance if they have a lower flash point. But yeah, it just smells kind of a little maybe perfumey and a little soapy. And that's all. It's really not offensive. So I find that encouraging for rebatching. I would encourage you, if you have soap scraps, to not waste them at all. Don't be daunted by the fragrances, because it's really actually not an issue. So all right, I've got those stirred down, and you can already see how much it's sunk down a little bit here as they start to melt. It was a very full crock pot when they were all fluffed up, but it's only about half full when they melt down. So I'm going to put the lid back on and just let this go for about another 20 minutes, and then I will decide if I need to add just a little bit, maybe an ounce more water or not, but we'll come back and check. All right, it's been about 20 more minutes. So I'm just coming in here. The shavings are starting to sweat. This is all good, and it is actually starting to melt around the outside edge here. So this is great, but it's a little stiff. So I have 1 ounce extra here. So this is bringing it up to a total of 4 ounces of distilled water that I'm adding in here right now. And I'm just going to go slow. I'm not going to add any more until I see how that goes, but we'll see. And of course now here is one of the lovely sides of REBATCH. It turns this just really not attractive brown. It's just a mishmash of all the colors. So I will have to choose if I want to color this, if I want to fragrance this. I'm not sure. So I'm still thinking about it as it melts down. I'm kind of just waiting to see how it's looking and smelling, and then I will decide after we get this a little more melted. But I'm going to let this sit about another 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come in with my little blender, my little handheld mixer, and start whipping it to sort of break up any big chunks and incorporate a little air and just get it a little smoother. So that is how we'll proceed. So put the lid back on, another 20 minutes, and we'll come back. All right, it's been about 20 more minutes, and I've got my handy dandy old beat up KitchenAid mixer here, and I'm just gonna kind of use that to mix this in. It's looking nice and wet, which is great. And it's definitely a brown color. Interesting. But you know, it's not a bad brown. It's kind of a mocha brown, so I'm not sure I'm going to put any color in here. All right. Pop the lid back on, and let me show you what I've got for the top. The last rebatch I used a piping bag, but this time I have got some tiny little melt and pour embeds that they're leftovers from different projects. So I actually might throw those down on top to kind of add some interest. I just have a mishmash of them. So I think that's what I'm going to do on top instead of piping on this one. So that's looking pretty nice. And since I'm not going to be piping, and I don't think I'm going to add any colorant or fragrance to this today because it still has, it has a fragrant overtone to it that I think is very pleasant, so I'm not going to mess with a good thing. And it does have some little kind of confetti bits in there. I think I may just leave it as is. This is actually going pretty quick today. So I may pop this out right now and put it in my mold and get my little embeds down on top. All right, so this crock pot is warm, so I'm going to go ahead and use my towel here to pull it out. It's the next morning and this is very firm, so I'm going to go ahead and unmold my little wonky REBATCH leftover soap. I'm saying it's wonky because it's shallow and I didn't add any color or fragrance to this. So we will see what we get. I'm hoping it has sort of a little confetti-ish look on the inside. There, it is kind of confetti-ish. I love it. That's just adorable. I think that's really cute. Great way to recycle. So let me get these cut into bars and we'll give it a lather test. All right, let's cut this up into little bars here. Aw, I think they're cute. So it's a little confetti-ish, got some little flowers. I kind of think these are adorable. Alright, well before I get these cleaned up, and I might do a little stamp on there, let's go ahead and give this a lather test. So I just have some warm water here. And it's, oh man, it lathers up already. That's a nice lather. Very creamy, very bubbly. It's a great buildable lather. I think these are just fabulous. My family's going to enjoy them. And it's very soft feeling. Now I'm going to let these sit on the curing rack for a couple of weeks and just let all the water fully sort of evaporate out of there so that they'll last longer, because that's a great little bar of soap. It's very, very lathery, and I'm really happy, but I definitely want them to last. So I'll just set them out there to air dry for a couple of weeks. They're great little soaps. They're kind of wonky looking, but I love them. I think they're adorable. All right, here's the funny thing. I'm going to take my soap shavings soaps and make soap shavings. Got my little handmade stamp, and I just got this on Amazon, and it's actually made out of, it's like a really hard resin. It almost feels like stone, but it's not stone. It's like a really hard plastic resin. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz it with my alcohol like I normally do, and put it on here and give it a couple of little taps till I can feel like it's gone down. There we go. Handmade. I just think these are really cute, and what a great way to recycle and have no waste.